and assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to the third episode of the Mind and Dean podcast.
Welcome back, Aisha. It's great to have you back on board. You were missed last episode.
Thank you.
So in the previous episode, we went over defining what low mood and depression was. We went over thoughts, behavior, feeling cycle, or the TBF cycle, what rumination is and the vicious cycle of low mood, and how behavioral activation can help break that cycle. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the thoughts part of the TBF cycle and how cognitive restructuring can help us tackle low mood.
Yeah, and also tackle these negative automatic thoughts that we might experience. So could you kind of summarize what negative automatic thoughts are?
So hint, hint, the answer is in the previous episode. So if you haven't already listened to that, then please go back and hear it and come back. But
go back and listen to the last episode.
Alright, so negative automatic thoughts are basically, when we experience low mood or depression, we tend to have initial thoughts that are negative towards any situation.
For example, we might think, why me? What's the point of anything?
Yeah, why not someone else? Why does this always happen to me?
Yeah.
And having these thoughts again and again.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when an uncontrollable negative event happens, we can often internalize the blame and believe that the cause of that negative experience will never improve and never get better. Or sometimes it's the opposite, and we might kind of go through a positive experience, but we might view it as just temporary and just due to luck.
Mm-hmm. So does that mean when something positive happens to us, we kind of attribute it to luck, and when it happens to someone else, it's because of their hard work or because they deserve it or they're more deserving?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where kind of low self-esteem or lack of confidence can kind of creep in.
And low self-esteem and low mood often go hand in hand. So those experiencing low mood can also experience low self-esteem and vice versa.
Yeah, definitely. And these types of maladaptive thought patterns can definitely fuel the depression by creating and strengthening that cycle of negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So whilst we can't change our life experiences, it is possible to change the way that we think about them, and also possible to learn positive coping mechanisms to manage our low mood.
Which is also known as cognitive restructuring.
Or CR.
So in other words, cognitive restructuring is the ability to recognize when we have those negative thoughts and work towards changing it to make it more positive and break out of that vicious cycle.
So one example of cognitive restructuring that I do with clients is an activity called putting thoughts on trial, or taking your thought to court. So essentially, it's like a courtroom trial.
Interesting. So is there a judge and a...
Yeah,
okay.
Basically. So you put that hot thought down first, so that negative automatic thought that's been playing in your mind. So that's the accusation. So an example of one could be that I think no one loves me.
Ooh.
Or nobody loves me.
That's a bit deep, Aisha.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's okay.
And then the prosecutor's arguments are the evidence that suggests that this accusation is true. So one huge piece of evidence could be that I have never been in a romantic relationship. Then you have the defense arguments. So this is the evidence that suggests that this accusation is false. So I guess bits of evidence could be that my friends love me, my family love me. And what you're meant to do is you're meant to kind of weigh up the evidence for and the evidence against to kind of create a new, more balanced thought.
Okay. Oh, so what if you end up with a lot of fours for the negative thought? What happens then?
Yeah, so ideally that shouldn't happen, but I guess it can sometimes. But it's not about kind of believing in that new balanced thought completely in 100%, because that's not going to always happen. Mm-hmm. But it's about understanding that there is actually evidence for and evidence against this
so
statement.
You have both positive and negative.
Yeah,
of what you're
there's
thinking.
Different ways to think about everything.
Interesting.
It's not just one narrow-minded way to think about things.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think everyone should try that out.
Yeah, it's a really nice activity, and I can always put the link in the description for everyone to have access to the worksheet.
So is this something you do with your clients?
Yeah, something I do. And everyone really likes it. They like the idea of kind of taking it to court. I think it makes it more fun as well.
Yeah, it's a fun activity to do as well. All right. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, promoted cognitive reframing and restructuring to help break the cycle and help break stigma. So he promoted the view that suffering is a blessing from Allah instead of it being a negative thing, and that Allah tests those whom he loves the most. So is that related to what you told us earlier, Aisha, about the taking your thoughts to court and thinking differently?
Yeah, quite similar actually, because that activity is trying to kind of tell you that it's okay to think from other perspectives. Like, for example, that suffering that you might be going through is a trial that will have a positive outcome.
Yeah, and Allah knows what's best for us. So
Yeah.
believing in that and thinking of a situation from that angle really helps us.
But often, like, leaving affairs to God doesn't mean that we shouldn't take any action ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We still do have to put the work in, but also have that trust in Him.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing, because often in our community we hear only one aspect of it, like one side to it.
Yeah.
So, like, it's Allah's decree that we experience certain situations, and in the narrative that we don't have any control over it, but we have control over what we do in our day-to-day lives to make us feel better.
Exactly.
So it's like both looking after our daily life and having that trust and faith in Allah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. And in your day-to-day life, I think it's important to remind yourself to be mindful of your internal dialogue, to ensure you're kind of having those beautiful, like, positive and peaceful thoughts. Also, I just wanted to say, when you're feeling low, it's important to remind yourself that there is nothing that surpasses your Lord, and there is nothing that He is unaware of. So we are taught by Allah and the Messenger, peace be upon him, that there are some events that aren't in our control. Just like you mentioned, a lot of things in life aren't in our control, but we can't internalize blame, and instead we should have trust in God. And this belief is called having belief in Qadr, so divine destination, and it's actually a pillar of our faith as well. So for the believer, the help of God always comes, but it's important to understand that it does not always come in the form that we expect. So God might not change that difficult situation that we're going through. Instead, He might just place tranquility in your heart.
So what we think is good for us may not always be the best. So we might have an idea of how to come out of a difficult situation, and often it might not happen the way we want it to.
Yeah.
But believing that Allah has equipped us with the ability to come out of it, I think is a form of cognitive restructuring, like thinking that you have the ability to cope with your difficulties.
Yeah, like, what other way can I think about this? How can I cope with it?
Yeah.
Asking yourself, what is the anchor that's holding me down?
Yeah.
Now let's talk about some sleep hygiene. So essentially, sleep hygiene is ways to improve your sleeping habits.
Yeah, so people experiencing low mood and depression often have trouble sleeping, falling asleep or staying asleep, and there are certain things you can do to help that, which we call sleep hygiene.
So I guess we could do it in like 4 steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can be tailored to each person, and we should play around with it to see what works. So the first bit is sorting out your sleep schedule.
Yeah.
So having a set routine to sleep, having a set time to sleep every day.
Set wake up time as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And making it gradual. So if you sleep really late at night, so gradually decrease it instead of making drastic changes. And if you find it difficult to sleep at night, then try avoiding naps during the day if that's something that you do, so you give yourself that time to feel tired by the end of the day.
Also, like, the routine that you do before bedtime is another thing you can work on. So consistency is key. Reducing screen time could be one thing that you can do. I think it's something we all struggle with. Like, it's really hard to not go on your phone or not watch a show before bed.
Yeah, and I think we get a bit too ambitious, so I've tried not looking at my screen 1 hour before going to bed, and it lasted a few weeks, and yeah, I think we should
It's hard to keep up.
make it gradual more
Yeah.
than drastic.
Yeah. Kind of starting off with like half an hour and then working your way up. And I mean, sometimes if it does not happen, that's also okay. At least
Yeah.
you're trying. But yeah, having like you mentioned, that 30 to 60 minutes wind down time before bed. So doing some like relaxation or engaging in relaxing activities, valued-based activities as well. It
Yeah.
could be meditation, yoga, breathing exercises. I don't know, what else do you do for relaxation, Hannah? Reading a book?
Reading a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice one.
Doing these different activities also helps reduce rumination because you're engaged in something rather than lying in bed and giving yourself time to ruminate or overthink.
Exactly. But if that does happen, like if you do find yourself overthinking or worrying about something, sometimes writing it down can be really helpful. Like having a notepad, obviously if you're not trying to be on your phone, having a notepad near your bed, writing down those thoughts. It could be a to-do list as well, things you've forgotten in the day that you just need to think about tomorrow, and all you're doing is just putting it to the side for the next day, because now isn't the time to be thinking about it. Now is the time to wind down and relax.
And the third point is having a daily routine. So what you do during the day affects the quality of sleep that you have at night. So ensuring that during the day you try your best to engage in value-based activities.
Yeah, like even if it is a really stressful, busy day, just making sure you still do something really small and nice for yourself, even if it's for 5 minutes, like a bit of self-care in the evening,
Yeah.
just to kind of reduce that tension to hopefully help you sleep a bit better.
Yeah. It's nice to have that, like, pockets of happiness or peace.
Yeah, that's a nice way to see it. And then last one, optimizing your bedroom. So essentially like reducing exposure to light, reducing sounds, having a good temperature.
Yeah, and this is more important than you think because we don't really pay attention to this, but having a good comfy room to sleep in,
Can make such a difference. Yeah.
definitely.
Like a cool temperature is going to be really good.
Yeah.
And making sure that your bed is comfortable. And I think lavender can help, like the smell of lavender can help some people. Just kind of finding out what works best for you.
Yeah, I personally like having a fluffy cushion. What do you like?
That's cute. I actually want to get myself a squishmallow. But yeah, I think your environment does definitely influence how you're feeling.
Yeah.
So making those changes as best as you can. Even like lighting candles just to get into that relaxing
Ooh,
environment.
yeah. I dim the
Obviously-
lights, like I put my fairy lights on a few hours before bed.
Oh, that's cute. That's nice. Just like to get into that zone
Yeah.
of relaxation.
Awesome. So that's it for today's episode. Thank you everyone once again for tuning in and listening, and stay tuned for the next one.
Take care. Bye.